My name is Amelia Carter, and I'm about to tell you the story of the night my life changed forever. The night my husband abandoned me in labor, and I had to send a desperate text to a stranger. There was a moment when he slammed me against the wall, his hands around my throat, screaming, "You're betraying me. You think I'm stupid." And my mother-in-law, with eyes cold as ice, pointed her manicured finger at my face. "You've cost this family everything, but you will never take Clara from us." That was the moment I realized. If I didn't fight back, I would lose everything: my daughter, my freedom, and myself. Before I share the rest of my story, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've ever had to fight through fear. Trust me, you'll want to hear what happens next. The contractions hit like lightning at 2:47 a.m. I remember the exact time because I'd been staring at the glowing numbers on our bedroom clock, counting the minutes between waves of pain. The Mississippi humidity pressed against our century-old windows, making the New Orleans night feel like it was breathing on the glass. "Richard," I whispered, reaching across our king-sized bed. "Empty, of course." Laughter erupted from downstairs, his poker buddies, their cigars probably already staining my grandmother's curtains. I gripped the mahogany bedpost, another contraction stealing my breath. This wasn't supposed to happen for 2 more weeks. My phone shook in my trembling hands as I called him. Straight to voicemail. Again. The third time he picked up. "What?" His voice slurred with expensive whiskey. "The baby. Richard. It's coming." "Jesus, Amelia. We talked about this. You can't interrupt when I have clients over." "I'm not." A scream escaped before I could stop it. "Please, I need to get to the hospital. Take an Uber." The line went dead. I called his mother next, desperate. Evelyn Carter answered on the first ring, her voice crisp despite the hour. "Amelia, dear, having phantom pains again." "No, Evelyn, this is real. Please." "You artistic types are always so dramatic. Richard tells me you've been attention-seeking lately. Go back to sleep." The phone slipped from my fingers as another contraction doubled me over. My vision blurred. From tears or pain, I couldn't tell. In my panic, I grabbed my phone and typed a desperate message to the first number in my recent calls, not realizing it wasn't any of my blocked friends but a wrong number from a Chinese takeout order last week. "Please help, having baby. Alone." 1847. Prytania Street. Send, blood on my nightgown, no car keys. Richard had taken them months ago, for my safety. My photography equipment sat dusty in the closet, abandoned like everything else I used to be. Another contraction brought me to my knees. 23 minutes later, headlights swept across our bedroom wall. Not an ambulance, a mud-splattered pickup truck. A stranger stood at our front door, rain dripping from his construction jacket. His face was weathered, kind, with worry lines that deepened as he saw me collapsed in the foyer. "I'm Ethan," he said simply, already lifting me into his arms. "Let's get you safe." The truck smelled like sawdust and coffee. Ethan's calloused hands gripped the steering wheel as we flew through the storm-slick streets of New Orleans. Each streetlight blurred past like a prayer candle. "Breathe with me," he said, his voice steady with an accent I couldn't place. "In, out. My wife—" He stopped himself. "I know what to do." I wanted to ask about the catch in his voice, but another contraction stole my words. He reached over, letting me crush his hand. "Almost there, brave one. Almost there." The hospital erupted into motion the moment Ethan carried me through the emergency doors. Nurses surrounded us, wheelchairs appeared, but he didn't let go of my hand until they forced him to. "Is your husband parking?" a nurse asked. I looked at Ethan, this stranger who'd appeared like a guardian angel. He was already backing away. "I'll stay if you need," he offered quietly. "Please?" The word came out as a sob. "I can't do this alone." For the next 6 hours, Ethan Morales became my anchor. He held my hand through the worst of it, spoke soft encouragements in English and Spanish, never once checking his phone or looking impatient. When I screamed, he didn't flinch. When I cried for my mother, dead 3 years now, he stroked my hair. "You're stronger than you know," he whispered as I pushed. "Tu bebe needs you to be strong." Clara arrived at 9:23 a.m., screaming and perfect. 7 pounds of pure fight with my dark hair and her father's stubborn chin. As the nurses cleaned her, I noticed Ethan crying, silent tears sliding down his weathered cheeks. "She's beautiful," he said, then quickly wiped his face. "I should go. Your family will want—" "Stay, please. Just until—" I didn't finish. Until what? Until my drunk husband decided to show up? He sat in the corner chair, guardian-like, as I held Clara for the first time. She opened her eyes, deep blue like a storm clearing, and I fell completely, irrevocably in love. "Thank you," I whispered to Ethan. "I don't even know why you came." "My Maria," he said softly, staring at his work boots. 8 years ago, she called for help. I was traveling, building hotels. By the time I got home, he shrugged, a gesture holding oceans of grief. "When I saw your message, I couldn't let another woman face that alone." Richard never came, neither did Evelyn. But as dawn broke over Lake Pontchartrain, painting my hospital room gold, I had Clara in my arms and a stranger-turned guardian angel dozing in an uncomfortable chair. When I woke from an exhausted sleep at noon, Ethan was gone. Only a business card remained on my bedside table. Morales Architecture, building dreams from foundations up, and below, in pencil, "For when you're ready to rebuild." Coming home with Clara felt like entering a beautiful prison. Richard was waiting in the foyer, flowers in hand, purple orchids, expensive and scentless. His Harvard jaw was clean-shaven, his gray eyes clear, the perfect picture of a contrite husband. "Darling, I'm so sorry. The Whitman deal kept me occupied. You understand." He kissed my forehead, then glanced at Clara like she was a particularly interesting acquisition. "She's small. She's perfect. Of course. Mother's hired a night nurse. You'll need your rest." Within days, the cage doors started closing. First, the joint bank account. Suddenly, I needed his approval for any purchase over $50. "For budgeting," he explained, though I'd managed my finances fine for years before him. Then came the cameras. "Security," Richard said, installing them in every room except the bathrooms. "New Orleans isn't safe." My phone disappeared during a software update and returned wiped clean with parental controls activated. My lactation consultant visits were canceled. Mother knows someone better. My college friends' numbers were blocked. "They're bad influences, sweetheart." I stood at my bedroom window one Tuesday, Clara sleeping against my chest, watching construction workers renovate the house across the street. My fingers itched for my camera. Before Richard, I'd had an exhibition at a Soho gallery. The Times had called my work "Haunting Portraits of Hidden Americas." Now my Leica collected dust on a shelf I couldn't reach without his permission. "Mommy was somebody once," I whispered to Clara. "Had a studio in the Bywater, traveled to document migrant workers' stories. Won awards." She gurgled, tiny fingers wrapping around mine. The walls had photos now. Richard's choices. Sterile landscapes from Restoration Hardware, replacing my grandmother's paintings. Our wedding portrait hung prominent in the parlor, me and Vera Wang, smiling like I knew what I was signing away. 3 months passed in a haze of nursing, sleeping when allowed, and dodging Evelyn's criticisms. She visited daily, rearranging my kitchen, questioning my mothering, always watching with those calculating eyes. "You're lucky," she said one afternoon, bouncing Clara with possessive efficiency. "Richard could have chosen someone more suitable, but we make do." That night, unable to sleep, I crept to the closet and pulled down my old portfolio. Hidden between prints of Louisiana fishermen and Ninth Ward grandmothers, I found them, photos I'd taken during our engagement. Richard at a warehouse near the port, shaking hands with men whose faces I'd instinctively known not to capture clearly. Money changing hands, license plates I'd photographed out of habit. My blood chilled. I recognized one face now. Vincent Torino, recently indicted for racketeering. Another man had made headlines last month, found in Lake Pontchartrain. I looked at Clara sleeping in her bassinet, then at the camera watching us from the corner. How deep did this go? And more terrifying, how would I ever get us out? The business card Ethan left was hidden in my nursing bra, soft from handling, building dreams from foundations up. But how do you rebuild when someone's watching your every move? The market crash came on a Thursday. Richard burst through the front door at noon, his perfect composure cracked like old paint. "Pack Clara's things." he barked, loosening his Italian tie. "We're moving to the lake house." "What's happening?" His backhand caught me off guard, snapping my head sideways. Clara wailed from her bouncer. In 3 years of marriage, he'd never hit me before. "Don't question me." His voice was ice. "The FBI froze our accounts. Someone talked." Evelyn arrived within an hour, her silver Mercedes squealing into our circular drive. She swept in wearing Chanel and contempt, immediately taking charge. "This is what happens when you marry beneath yourself," she told Richard, as if I wasn't standing right there holding my screaming daughter. Her photographs, her artistic eye, she probably documented things she shouldn't have. I didn't. "Shut up." Evelyn's manicured nail pointed at my face. "You've cost this family everything, but you won't cost us Clara." She produced a document from her purse. "Lucky we prepared for this possibility. Your signature, dear, on a custody agreement. In case of family emergency, Clara remains with the stable parent." I stared at the paper. My signature was there, but I'd never seen this document. The handwriting was close, but the A was wrong, the C too curved. I never signed this. Evelyn smiled, cold as January. "Judge Morrison disagrees. He's an old friend, from when the Carter name meant something in the city." Richard grabbed my arm, fingers digging into flesh. "You'll do as you're told, Amelia, or you'll never see her again." That night, while they strategized downstairs, I did something I'd sworn I wouldn't. I called the number on Ethan's card. Morales Architecture. "Ethan? It's Amelia. From the hospital? I need help." Silence. Then, "Where are you?" "I can't leave. They're watching." "But Clara..." My voice broke. "They're going to take her. Listen to me." His voice was calm, steady. "Document everything. Photos, recordings if you can. I know a lawyer, a real one, but you need proof." "How do you know?" "Because I built Richard a hotel in Metairie 5 years ago. Pulled out when I realized what he was washing through the construction costs. I've been waiting for him to fall." My hands shook. "He'll kill me if he finds out I called you." "No," Ethan said firmly. "He won't. Because tomorrow, you're taking Clara to her 6-month checkup, the one at Children's Hospital, and you're going to accidentally run into me in the parking lot. They'll follow me. Let them. Sometimes the best way out is straight through the watching eyes." I hung up as footsteps creaked on the stairs. Richard appeared in the doorway, silhouetted like a threat. "Who were you talking to?" "The pediatrician's office," I lied smoothly, confirming Clara's appointment. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Good, keep it." As he turned away, I felt something shift inside me. Not hope exactly, but something harder. The first spark of fight. The Children's Hospital parking lot shimmered with August heat. I saw Ethan before my minders did. He was bent over architectural plans spread on his truck hood, legitimate business in plain sight. Our eyes met across the asphalt. He gave an imperceptible nod toward the hospital entrance. Inside, Clara charmed the nurses while I filled out forms with shaking hands. Then Ethan appeared in the waiting room, construction dust on his boots, looking like any contractor on a job inspection. "Mrs. Carter?" He played it perfectly professional. "I'm the architect working on the new pediatric wing. Mind if I sit? These old bones need rest." Evelyn's hired man, reading a magazine 10 feet away, barely glanced up. Ethan slipped me a phone under the immunity of small talk about construction delays. "Burner," he whispered while pointing at fake blueprints. "My lawyer's number is saved. Her name's Carmen Santos. She doesn't lose." They forged my signature. "The judge is their friend. Carmen eats corrupt judges for breakfast." He smiled at Clara, who grabbed his offered finger. "Brave like your mama, aren't you, little one?" For 20 minutes, we performed normalcy. He told me about the hospital expansion. I pretended to care about square footage, all while my lifeline sat hidden in my diaper bag. But Richard was waiting when we got home, laptop open to security footage. "Interesting conversation with Mr. Morales," he said conversationally. "The man who stole my Metairie project. I didn't know who he was." "Don't lie to me." The laptop flew across the room, shattering against the wall. Clara screamed. "You think I'm stupid? First the FBI, now this?" He grabbed my throat, pressing me against the wall. "You're working with them, feeding them information. I can't breathe. Richard. Evelyn's voice cut through his rage. Not where the cameras can see. He released me, and I collapsed, gasping. Clara's cries echoed through the house. You've gotten sloppy, Evelyn told her son coldly. Emotional, like your father. She turned to me. We're filing tomorrow. Abandonment, mental instability, and this time you'll sign the real papers, or things will get unpleasant. That night, I used the burner phone from the bathroom, whispering under running water. Carmen Santos answered on the second ring. Ethan told me about you. Can you get somewhere safe? No, they're watching everything. Then we go nuclear. I need you to record everything. Every threat, every bruise. Louisiana is a one-party consent state. Your phone is your weapon now. What if they catch me? Then we'll have assault charges to add to the fraud. Either way, we win. I stared at my reflection, bruises blooming on my throat like purple flowers. I used to document injustice with my camera. Guess some habits die hard. Good, Carmen said, because tomorrow they'll make their move, and we'll be ready. Justice loves a paper trail. Clara's cries had quieted. Somewhere in this house, my daughter slept, unaware her future balanced on a knife's edge. The courtroom smelled like old wood and lies. Richard's legal team filled one side, 3 lawyers in suits that cost more than most people's cars. I sat with Carmen Santos, who wore a simple black dress and an expression like a prizefighter. Your Honor, Richard's lead attorney began, we have clear evidence of Mrs. Carter's instability, postpartum psychosis, paranoid delusions about her husband's business. They presented their fiction beautifully. Falsified medical records showing psychiatric appointments I'd never attended. Testimony from a Dr. Brennan, whom I'd never met, claiming I'd threatened to harm Clara. Photos taken out of context. Me crying from Richard's abuse. Me looking disheveled after nights of Clara's colic. I felt the world tilting, their money and connections rewriting reality. Then Carmen stood. Your Honor, I'd like to call Lucas Zimmerman. Richard went rigid. His assistant, loyal Lucas, who'd worked for him 7 years, walked to the stand like a man approaching the gallows. Mr. Zimmerman, Carmen began, you recently approached my client with information. Why? Lucas stared at Richard with naked hatred. Because he destroyed my sister. The courtroom shifted. Even the judge leaned forward. Rebecca was 19, Lucas continued, intern at Carter Industries. Richard pursued her. When she got pregnant, he had her committed to a psychiatric facility, said she was delusional. The same Dr. Brennan signed her papers. Objection, Richard's lawyer shouted. Relevance? Establishing a pattern, Your Honor, Carmen said smoothly. Mr. Zimmerman, what happened to Rebecca? She killed herself 6 months later. The baby died too. Lucas's voice broke. I kept working for him, waiting for my chance. When I saw him doing the same thing to his wife. Carmen produced recordings. Lucas had worn a wire for weeks. Richard's voice filled the courtroom, discussing forged documents, bribing judges, handling me like I was a problem to solve. The judge's face darkened with each revelation. But I knew Richard's lawyers would find a way to discredit Lucas, to twist the narrative. Money always won. That's when Carmen played her ace. I'd like to submit financial records obtained through federal subpoena. Mr. Carter's alleged fortune, built on fraud. FBI investigation confirms he's been laundering money for the Torino crime family. Every asset, including this law firm's retainer, is frozen pending federal charges. Richard lunged across the courtroom. You bitch! You destroyed everything! Bailiffs restrained him as he screamed threats. Evelyn sat frozen. Her perfect composure finally cracked. The judge called a recess, and Carmen guided me to a quiet corner. We're not done, she warned. They'll regroup. But Lucas gave us what we needed. Doubt. And doubt is all we need to. The fire alarm shrieked. Smoke poured under the courthouse doors. In the chaos of evacuation, I lost sight of Clara's stroller. Clara! I screamed, pushing through the crowd. Where's my baby? The parking lot was pandemonium. Then I saw her, Evelyn, carrying Clara to a black town car. No! I ran, but the car was already pulling away, my daughter's cries lost in the sirens. The safe house was a converted warehouse in the Marigny, one of Carmen's client properties. Ethan paced while I sat frozen, Clara's pink blanket clutched in my hands. 24 hours, Carmen said, phone pressed to her ear. The FBI says they'll have search warrants by morning. She could be anywhere by morning. My voice sounded dead, even to me. Ethan knelt beside my chair. We'll find her. Lucas is tracking their properties. Richard's assets are frozen, but Evelyn has hidden accounts. Under the name Eleanor Williams, Lucas announced, bursting through the door with a laptop. Her maiden name. I've been documenting everything for 3 years, waiting for this moment. He pulled up financial records, property deeds, a web of corruption spanning decades. She owns a compound in Terrebonne Parish. Bought it last year through a shell company. Private airstrip. If she's planning to run, Carmen started. She's not running. I stood, sudden clarity cutting through grief. She wants Clara. Always has. Richard was just the means to get a grandchild she could control. I thought of Evelyn's calculating eyes, her comments about Clara's potential, her obsession with legacy. She killed her first husband. Richard told me once, drunk. Made it look like a heart attack. She's been building this empire for 50 years. Jesus, Lucas breathed. I found something else. Dr. Brennan. He's dead. Car accident last week. Right after the subpoenas went out. Carmen was already on the phone with federal marshals. Ethan loaded guns I didn't know he owned, but I was looking at my old camera bag, the one Richard had shoved in the closet. I'm done being the victim in their story. Inside the bag, memory cards from 3 years of marriage. Richard thought I'd stop documenting, but artists never really stop seeing. Every suspicious meeting, every bruise, every threat, I'd captured it all, a habit deeper than fear. Holy shit, Lucas said, scrolling through the images. This is evidence of everything. Money laundering, assault, conspiracy. Amelia, you've been building a case without knowing it. We worked through the night, Carmen filing emergency motions, federal agents preparing raids. At dawn, my burner phone rang. Unknown number. You always were too clever. Evelyn's voice was ice, but not clever enough to keep her safe. If you hurt her, hurt my granddaughter, don't be dramatic. I'm saving her from you. From Richard's weakness, your poverty mindset. She'll be raised properly. A true Carter. She's a Morales, I heard myself say. Her middle name. Clara Esperanza Morales Carter. Hope. Something you never had. Silence. Then, you named her after him, that Mexican laborer. That man showed more love in one night than your family has in generations. Love. She spit the word. Love is weakness. Power is empty, Evelyn, and Clara will never be empty like you. She hung up, but Lucas was grinning. He'd traced the call. The warehouse district, near the port where it all began. Carmen grabbed my arm as I headed for the door. Let the FBI... No. I picked up my camera. This ends the way it started, with me fighting for my daughter. The warehouse squatted against the dawn sky like a rust-covered beast. FBI vehicles surrounded it, but I walked straight to the main entrance, Ethan beside me. Mrs. Carter. Agent Rivera stepped forward. You can't. It's my daughter in there. I kept walking. And my mother-in-law wants to talk. She always loved an audience. Inside, industrial shadows swallowed everything except a pool of light in the center. Evelyn sat there like a queen in exile, Clara in an antique bassinet beside her. Predictable, she said, not looking up from Clara's face. You always were sentimental. Let me have my daughter, Evelyn. Your daughter? She laughed, bitter as burned coffee. I built an empire, crushed men who thought they could stop me, turned Richard from nothing into something even if he proved too weak to hold it. Richard emerged from the shadows, a gun trembling in his hand, but he wasn't pointing it at us. He aimed at his mother. Weak? His voice cracked. You made me weak. Every choice, every crime, every lie, all to meet your impossible standards. Don't be pathetic, Richard. You loved the money, the power. I loved feeling like your son. The gun shook harder. Just once, I wanted to hear you say you were proud, but nothing was ever enough. Not the business, not the marriage, not even giving you a grandchild. I inched toward Clara, but Evelyn's hand shot out, gripping the bassinet. Stay back. Both of you disappointments. At least Clara is still pure, untainted by your failures. She's 6 months old, I said softly. She doesn't need an empire, she needs love. Love? Evelyn's composure finally shattered completely. Love got me a husband who preferred his secretary. Love got me a son who couldn't even launder money properly. Love is a luxury I carved out of myself 50 years ago. Then you carved out everything that mattered. The words came from Ethan, stepping into the light. I had love, lost it. But those 8 years with Maria meant more than any building I've designed, any success I've achieved. Your granddaughter deserves to know that feeling. You, Evelyn's face twisted. The nobody who thinks he can... The nobody who helped bring her into this world, Ethan said calmly, who'll make sure she knows she's valued for more than her last name. Sirens wailed closer. Richard's gun clattered to the floor as FBI agents flooded in. In the chaos, Evelyn made one last grab for Clara. I moved without thinking, muscle memory from documenting dangerous situations. My camera came up, the flash blinding Evelyn for just a second, long enough for me to scoop Clara into my arms. She was warm, perfect, alive. She opened her storm blue eyes and smiled, recognizing me despite everything. "It's over," Agent Rivera said, cuffing a eerily calm Evelyn. Richard didn't resist as they led him away. But I was already walking toward the door, toward the light spilling across the Mississippi, Clara safe against my chest and Ethan steady beside us. 6 months later, I held my first photography exhibition in 5 years. After the storm, Portraits of Survival opened at a small gallery in the Bywater. The centerpiece was a series documenting my own journey. Shadows giving way to light, imprisonment to freedom. Clara played in a corner while visitors studied my work. She crawled now, exploring everything with fearless curiosity. Ethan built her a special play area, safe but not constraining. "She's going to be an artist," he said, watching her stack blocks with intense concentration. "Maybe. Or maybe she'll build things, design homes where people feel safe." "Why not both?" I smiled, adjusting my camera for another shot. The afternoon light was perfect, golden and forgiving. Clara laughed, reaching for Ethan, who scooped her up with practiced ease. Through my lens, I saw them clearly. Not a replacement family, not a fairy tale ending, but something more honest. 2 people who'd survived loss, choosing to build something new from the wreckage. A little girl who would grow up knowing she was worth more than her name or inheritance. A woman reclaiming her art, her voice, her power to document truth. The federal case would take years. Richard cooperated for a reduced sentence. Evelyn hired new lawyers, fought every charge. But none of that mattered in this moment, in this light, in this life I was building one frame at a time. "Take the picture," Ethan said, smiling as Clara grabbed his nose. I did, capturing joy after sorrow, hope after fear. The shutter clicked and I knew this was the story I'd been meant to tell all along. Not one of victimhood, but of survival. Not of darkness, but of the light that follows, always follows, if we're brave enough to seek it. Outside, New Orleans hummed with life. The Mississippi rolled on, carrying away what was toward what could be. And in a small gallery in the Bywater, surrounded by witnesses to my journey, I finally felt free. Clara reached for me, and I set down the camera. Some moments were too precious to document. Some stories were meant to be lived.